The secret behind 99 Speed Mart's founder becoming Malaysia's second richest. What if I told you that Malaysia's second richest man didn't make his fortune from oil, from tech startups, or from some government-linked mega contract? What if I told you that his billions came from something so simple, so ordinary, so completely under your nose, that most people walk past his empire every single day without ever thinking twice about it? We're talking about eggs. We're talking about cooking oil. We're talking about a can of 100 plus and a bag of rice. We're talking about 99 Speed Mart. And we're talking about the man who built it all, Lee Thiam Wah. As of 2024, 99 Speed Mart has over 2,700 outlets operating across Malaysia. That's more locations than McDonald's in this country. More than 7-Eleven. More than any other retail chain in the nation. And the man behind it all is now worth over 19 billion ringgit, making him the second wealthiest person in all of Malaysia according to Forbes. But here's what nobody is talking about. The real story behind this empire isn't just about success. It's about survival. It's about a young man with no degree, no connections, and no roadmap who saw something that everyone else ignored. And then quietly, systematically, without a single viral moment, built one of the most powerful retail empires Southeast Asia has ever seen. If you've ever believed that the game is rigged, that success in Malaysia only belongs to those with the right family name or the right political handshake, stay with me. Because this story is about to completely change how you see everything. But wait, before we go any further, please take 2 seconds and hit that subscribe button. You do not want to miss stories like this one. Comment "I subscribe" down below right now and I will personally welcome you to this community. Alright, let's get into it. Let's go back to the beginning. And I mean the real beginning, not the polished version. Not the Forbes profile. The actual, raw, uncomfortable beginning. Lee Thiam Wah was born and raised in Klang, Selangor. His family wasn't wealthy. There was no inheritance waiting for him, no trust fund, no father who could make a phone call and open a door. He grew up in the kind of environment where money was something you worried about, not something you planned with. He left school early. No university degree. No diploma. Just a young man in a hot Malaysian town, with his brothers beside him, and a decision to make. So they started where most people start when they have nothing. A small sundry shop. If you grew up in Malaysia in the 80s or 90s, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That little corner store. Wooden shelves. Flickering fluorescent lights. The smell of dried goods and detergent powder. The uncle behind the counter who knew every customer by name. That was Lee Thiam Wah. Imagine standing behind that counter every single day, counting coins at the end of the night, hoping that what came in was just a little more than what went out. Watching the same customers come in, buying the same small items, day after day. Most people in that situation see a ceiling. They see limitation. They see a small life wrapped in a small shop. But Lee Thiam Wah saw something else entirely. He saw that the people walking through his door weren't looking for luxury. They weren't hunting for some premium experience. They were looking for necessity. They needed to eat. They needed to clean their homes. They needed to feed their children. And they needed to do all of that without spending more than they could afford. And that's the insight that changed everything. Now here's where the story gets uncomfortable for a moment. Because before the empire came the grind. Before the 2,700 stores came the losses, the near collapses, the moments where the whole thing could have ended before it ever really began. The 1990s and early 2000s were brutal for small retailers in Malaysia. Do you remember what was happening? Giant opened. Tesco came in. Carrefour set up these massive hypermarkets that felt like you were walking into an airplane hangar. Everybody said the same thing. Small shops are finished. The mini-market format is dead. Why would anyone choose a small neighborhood store when they could drive 15 minutes and get everything in one go? Almost every small retailer believed it. Many of them packed up, took their losses and walked away. But Lee Thiam Wah didn't walk away. He looked at the hypermarket boom and asked a question that almost nobody else was asking at the time. He asked, okay, so the big stores are winning in the big locations. But what about the places they can't reach? What about the dense housing estates? The working class neighborhoods? The areas where people don't have cars, or don't have the time, or simply can't afford to spend 2 hours doing a weekly shop. He saw the gap. Not the gap at the top. Not the premium space that every ambitious entrepreneur dreams about. He saw the gap at the bottom. The essential, unglamorous, completely overlooked gap between where people live and where they shop. And he decided to plant his flag right there. This is the moment, right here, that separates Lee Thiam Wah's story from every other rags to riches narrative you've ever heard. Because what he did next wasn't exciting. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't the kind of move that gets written up in business magazines or talked about at conferences. He just kept opening stores. Well, efficient. Strategically placed inside residential communities. No massive advertising budgets. No celebrity endorsements. No gimmicks. Just the right products, at the lowest possible prices, in exactly the places where ordinary Malaysians needed them most. And according to a Retail Asia report published in 2022, this was actually the most powerful retail strategy of the century. Neighborhood convenience retail grew 34% faster than hypermarket formats in Southeast Asia following the pandemic. 34%. While the big players were scrambling to reinvent themselves, neighborhood stores were thriving because they were already exactly where people needed them to be. Lee Thiam Wah had figured this out 20 years earlier. He didn't copy the Western supermarket model. He didn't try to be Malaysian Walmart. He looked at what his customers actually needed: affordable essentials, walkable access, no frills, no surprises on the price tag, and he built a system around that. It's actually the same foundational philosophy used by Aldi and Lidl in Europe, two of the most successful grocery chains in the world. Keep prices iron-tight. Keep the range focused. Keep the volume massive. When you sell to everyone who needs to eat, you never run out of customers. Now I want to pause here for a second and bring this story closer to home. Because this isn't just about one man's billions. This is about the millions of Malaysians whose lives quietly intersect with what he built. Let me tell you about Puan Rohani. She's a 63-year-old retired factory worker from Shah Alam. After 30 years on the production floor, her monthly pension is just under 1,000 ringgit. After rent, after utilities, she has maybe 300 ringgit left for food and household necessities each month. She doesn't drive. Her knees have been aching for years, the kind of deep, grinding pain that comes from decades of standing on concrete floors. And every 2 or 3 days, she walks to her nearest 99 Speed Mart. It's about 8 minutes from her flat. She buys eggs. She buys a bottle of cooking oil. Sometimes a small bag of rice. She knows the prices by heart because they almost never change. She told a community volunteer who shared her story online, "I don't need a mall. I don't need a supermarket. I just need this place to be here." That place exists because of Lee Thiam Wah's decision, made decades ago, to go where the big players wouldn't. And here's the thing that hit me hardest when I researched this story. He almost never gives interviews. He doesn't appear at gala dinners. He doesn't post on Instagram. He doesn't give TED Talks about entrepreneurship. He moves through Malaysia like a ghost, invisible, quiet, and somehow responsible for feeding millions of families every single day. Speaking of which, right now, at the midpoint of this story, I want to ask you something. Are you finding value in content like this? Stories about real people, real strategies, real impact, told the way they deserve to be told? If yes, then please share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below and tell me, which part of this story surprised you the most so far? Your engagement right now tells me what to keep making. And I genuinely read every comment. Alright, back to the story. Let's talk about the growth. Because numbers tell a story that words sometimes can't. In 1987, Lee Thiam Wah and his brothers opened their first proper 99 Speed Mart outlet. By 2010, they had crossed 500 locations. By 2018, over 1,500. By 2024, more than 2,700 stores spread across every state in Malaysia. Do the math on that. Over 37 years of operation, that is an average of 74 new stores opening every single year. That's more than one new store every 5 days, without stopping, for nearly 4 decades. And behind every one of those stores are people. Today, 99 Speed Mart employs over 20,000 Malaysians. 20,000. That's larger than many government departments. That's a small city of workers, cashiers, logistics drivers, store managers, stockroom staff, whose income flows directly from one man's decision to open a sundry shop and never stop. The supply chain alone is staggering. Think about every supplier, every distributor, every small manufacturer whose goods end up on those shelves. The economic web that 99 Speed Mart has woven into Malaysia's everyday life is so large, so deeply embedded, that most people don't even register it as remarkable anymore. It's just like electricity, like water, like the roads under your tires. That invisibility, by the way, is part of the genius. But here's where the story gets complicated. Because when you get this big, when your stores are everywhere, when your name is on every Malaysian's lips, people start talking. And not always kindly. As 99 Speed Mart's footprint expanded, the criticism came. Accusations surfaced that the chain was suffocating small Malay-owned retailers, the traditional kedai runsit that had been the backbone of kampung economies for generations. There were calls to regulate, to limit, to push back. During a particularly intense period in 2023 and into 2024, boycott movements targeted Chinese-owned businesses in Malaysia, and 99 Speed Mart found itself squarely in the crosshairs. It was politically charged. It was economically complex. And it was deeply emotional for communities on every side of the debate. Lee Thiam Wah's response? Silence. Not the silence of a man who doesn't care, but the silence of a man who has built something so embedded in daily Malaysian life that he doesn't need to defend it. Because his customers, regardless of race, regardless of politics, kept walking through those doors. Because when your child is hungry and your pocket only holds 15 ringgit, ideology becomes a luxury. And while the controversies raged, the revenue kept growing. The stores kept opening. The shelves stayed stocked. Some will look at that and see ruthlessness. Others will see resilience. But what I see is something more nuanced. A man who understood that survival is not always a clean story. That building something that lasts often means standing steady in the storm while everyone else is shouting. Now let's get to the part that I think matters most. Because this isn't a story just about one extraordinary man. This is a story about principles that are hiding in plain sight. Principles that Lee Thiam Wah applied without a business school education, without a mentor, without a roadmap. And I want to break them down for you one by one. The first principle is neighborhood before nation. He didn't try to conquer Malaysia all at once. He conquered one neighborhood at a time, making sure each store was serving its specific community before expanding to the next. Growth built on roots, not reach. The second principle is price as a promise. In every market, there are brands that compete on experience, on premium quality, on status. 99 Speed Mart never competed there. They competed on price, and they kept that promise relentlessly. Customers knew that if it's on that shelf, it's the most affordable it can possibly be. That trust is worth more than any marketing campaign. The third principle is volume over vanity. High margin, low volume, beautiful packaging. That's one model. Lee Thiam Wah chose the opposite. Low margin, staggering volume, zero frills. This mirrors exactly what a Harvard Business Review study from 2019 identified as the most durable retail model in emerging market economies. High frequency, low cost, community-embedded stores outperform premium formats by up to 40% over a 10-year period. The fourth principle is silence as a brand strategy. In an age of CEOs becoming personalities, of founders writing books and giving speeches, Lee Thiam Wah chose invisibility. And paradoxically, that invisibility made the brand feel safe, familiar, and trustworthy. You don't wonder about the owner. You just go to the store. And the fifth principle, and this one is the most important, is patience. Not the passive kind of patience. The active, grinding, daily patience of someone who opened 74 stores a year for 37 years. Who never rushed an IPO. Who never chased a trend. Who just kept executing, one store, one shelf, one customer at a time. Here's the thing about Lee Thiam Wah's wealth that makes it almost philosophically interesting. He is worth over 19 billion ringgit. He is richer than many petroleum executives who sit on top of Malaysia's most valuable natural resources. He is wealthier than banking CEOs who move billions through international markets. He has more personal net worth than most tech founders in this region. And he got there by selling eggs. Not metaphorically. Literally. Eggs, cooking oil, detergent, biscuits. The most basic, most essential, most unglamorous products in existence. The things that every Malaysian family needs regardless of whether the economy is booming or crashing. And that's the final, quietly devastating insight of this entire story. The real money in this world is not always in the exciting places. It's not always in the disruptive technology or the bold venture bet or the headline-making deal. Sometimes, more often than people want to admit, the real money is in the ordinary. In the essential. In the thing that everyone needs but nobody thinks about. The best opportunities are often hiding in the last place ambitious people think to look. The neighborhood. The everyday. The simple. As we come to the end of this story, I want you to sit with something for a moment. Lee Thiam Wah built the second largest personal fortune in Malaysia not because he was the smartest person in the room. Not because he had access that others didn't. He built it because he understood people. He understood that ordinary Malaysians, working-class families, retired aunties, students counting their ringgit, needed something affordable and accessible and reliable. And he dedicated his entire life to giving them exactly that. No shortcuts. No scandal. No overnight explosion. Just decades of quiet, relentless service to the everyday Malaysian. That is a story worth knowing. And if it changes one thing about how you see opportunity, if it makes you look at your own neighborhood, your own community, your own overlooked corner of the world with fresh eyes, then this video did exactly what it was supposed to do. So here's the question I'm leaving you with today. Right now, somewhere in Malaysia, in your city, maybe in your own neighborhood, there is a gap that everyone is walking past. A need that isn't being met. A community that isn't being served. It might not look glamorous. It probably doesn't look like a billion ringgit idea. But 37 years ago, neither did a small sundry shop in Klang. So tell me in the comments, what do you think the next 99 Speed Mart looks like? What's the next ordinary thing that someone is about to turn into something extraordinary? I genuinely want to know what you think. And if this story moved you, if it taught you something, if it made you see Malaysia just a little differently today, share it with one person. Not because of the algorithm, because this kind of story deserves to be heard. Thank you for staying until the very end. You are exactly the kind of person this channel exists for. I'll see you in the next one.